Midnight, June 16th, 1775. Shadows flicker across the Charlestown Peninsula. Hundreds of colonial militiamen, breathless with urgency, dig furiously into the rocky earth. Each shovel of dirt is a silent act of rebellion. They know British eyes are watching from Boston. But what drives a farmer to risk his life against the world's most powerful army? How does a colony, barely more than a collection of towns, dare to challenge an empire? We worked there undiscovered till about 5 in the morning. Then we saw our danger, being against ships of the line, and all Boston fortified against us. Are these men building a fort or their own graves? Dawn breaks. Redcoats in Boston stare in disbelief. Overnight, a crude redoubt has risen on Breed's Hill, a direct challenge to British control. How did the colonists build so much so fast? Are the British truly facing an army? Or just desperate men with nothing left to lose? General Gage, under pressure from London, cannot ignore this insult. He orders an immediate response. British officer John Burgoyne writes, "The rebels have done more work in one night than my whole army would have done in a month." What goes through the mind of a general forced to attack his own countrymen? British troops, nearly 3,000 strong, board boats, cross the harbor and form up in perfect lines at the foot of Breed's Hill. The colonists, outnumbered and low on ammunition, steady themselves behind their earthworks. Why do the British with all their might hesitate? Why do the Americans, with so little, stand their ground? Patriot leader William Prescott walks the line, his voice calm. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Is this discipline or desperation? The British advance, drums pound, the hill shakes beneath their march. Inside the redoubt, hearts race. Will the Americans hold? The order comes, hold your fire. Wait, wait. The British are close enough to see the whites of their eyes. A thunderous volley erupts. Redcoats fall in waves. A British officer later writes, "They advanced toward us in order to swallow us up, but they found a choky mouthful of us." Why do the British keep coming? What compels men to march into certain death? 15 minutes. That's all it takes for the first attack to shatter. But the British regroup. Officers shout, "Form up! Advance!" They march again, stepping over their fallen comrades. The colonists, low on powder, brace for another onslaught. How many times can courage hold against overwhelming force? Again, the Americans wait. Again, the British are cut down. A British officer describes the carnage. The dead lay as thick as sheep in a fold. At what point does bravery become futility? The British strip off their heavy packs. No more pretense. This is a fight to the death. With bayonets fixed, they charge a third time. Inside the redoubt, the Americans are out of powder. They fight with fists, rocks, even the butts of their muskets. Major Pitcairn, infamous from Lexington, falls to a black soldier named Salem. In the chaos, Dr. Joseph Warren, physician, orator, patriot, dies, refusing to retreat. What is the price of freedom? Who decides which deaths become legends? The colonial line breaks. The retreat is orderly, almost defiant. Burgoyne, watching from afar, writes, "No flight. It was even covered with bravery and military skill. The British have the hill, but at a cost. 282 dead, over 800 wounded. American losses are less than half, but among them is Joseph Warren. General Clinton calls it a dear-bought victory. Did the British win? Or did the Americans prove they could never be conquered? What did this battle mean? For the British, the loss we have sustained is greater than we can bear. For the Americans, they have stood their ground against British Redcoats and tested them to the limit. Was this the moment America's fate was sealed, or just the beginning of a longer, bloodier struggle? How do we remember Bunker Hill? As a defeat, or as the birth of a nation's resolve? The Battle of Bunker Hill was a British victory, but at what cost? The British learned that colonial resolve was not to be underestimated. The Americans learned that courage could stand against the world's greatest army. General Gage admitted, "These people show a spirit and conduct against us they never showed against the French. The loss we have sustained is greater than we can bear." What would you have done on that hill? Would you have stood or run? But by those who refuse to yield. History is not made by the victors alone. The echoes of Bunker Hill still ring out. Will we remember the price paid for liberty? Will we question the stories we inherit and seek the truth behind the legends. The battle is over, but the questions remain. What would you have done when the world was on fire?